Hello and welcome to the Budget Knitter podcast channel. My name is WSpargur, I'm your host. I'm coming to you from Las Vegas, Nevada, where I live with my 2 dogs and my husband. And today is the final update for our Flax sweater knit along. So we've been doing this for a while. I have been watching your progress and it is fantastic. I am so excited for what you guys have been able to put together. And so today you should have finished your sleeves. Everything should be done. We are weaving in our ends, closing up our holes, and calling this a finished object. So another thing that you'll want to take into consideration is blocking. And I've kind of decided not to do a specific video on blocking or include it in part of this, mostly because I don't really know how to block a sweater. For me, I knit it in acrylic, so I'm just gonna wash it. I mean, it fits exactly the way I need it to fit, so mine doesn't really require any blocking. I'm just gonna wash it. On top of that, I don't really know how to block a sweater. Most people, I think, if it's knit out of a natural fiber, they just say, soak it, lay it out flat to dry, kind of stretch it where you need it to go, and that should work. So I guess that the instructions on how to block a natural fiber sweater, I have no idea. I don't mean that to be like, I don't know what I'm doing. It's just mine's an acrylic, so if I'm gonna block it, it's gonna be steam blocked, and I don't think you steam block natural fibers. So anyway, here's mine. This is my finished sweater, no ends woven in yet. Oh, there's the other dangle. Okay, so we've got 4 ends to weave in, and we've got holes under our underarms that have to be sewn in, right there. So we've got 4 holes and 4 pieces of yarn to weave in. So that won't be difficult. It's going to be very quick. I promise you are going to be so thrilled. I'm going to go over step by step kind of how to weave in your ends, especially on ribbing, because weaving in your ends on ribbing, we definitely still want it to be stretchy, right? So we're going to do that, and then at the end of making sure everything is woven in, there will be some instructions at the end of the video on what to do with submitting your finished object and how long you have to finish it after this update goes live. So there'll be a little bit more information at the end of the video. But I know that you want to get straight to making sure that your ends are woven in, so let's head to the table and we will get that ready to go so that you can, we're going to put it on at the end of the video too. So let's head over to the table and let's get started. Okay, so to finish our sweaters, we're absolutely going to need our sweater that has been knit, both sleeves and the rest of the body. We're going to need a pair of scissors. We're going to need a yarn needle or a darning needle, and I suggest having some of the leftover yarn from your sweater available because you may or may not have enough to be able to get to both holes under the sleeves. I typically sometimes have to cut an extra piece of yarn to close the hole on the opposite end, so I recommend having some of that just in case. So let's get started. We're going to start with weaving in the end in the collar. So this is our collar, and we need this end woven in on the back of the fabric so that it's hidden and so the collar stays stretchy. We don't want to weave it in and not be able to stretch it out. So what we're going to grab our yarning needle, and we will thread that. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is get the yarn to the back of the work. So we're just going to take it and we're going to push it under just one of the top stitches. Alright, so now we have the yarn available on the back of the work. Now, there are on here, so you see knit stitches, which are the reverse purl. So purl on the other side. These knit stitches are what we're going to work into. It's a little hard to see, but there's a right leg on every knit stitch. So it's this V, we pick up the right leg of every single one. So we just kind of loop our needle through every single one of those V's, the right leg of the V. This is a little harder than I expected it to be. So we just kind of weave it in under every single one. You can either go the full length of the ribbing if you want to, or however far you need to go. Then we're going to pull that through. So you see there, it's relatively invisible. Can't even really tell that we did that. So then you can either turn or you can work your way down. I'm going to turn because it's easier for me to see. So we came up this side. Now we need to go back down the other side. So we're going to go across, pick up the right of the V. Maybe. Okay, picked up. I might be going the wrong way. Yep, come in from this side. And then we'll just do the same thing. We find the right leg of the V. I think the other side's a little harder. But we're going to do that just in and out of every one. Just like that. Okay, you can either go all the way down to the edge again, or you can stop a few stitches before. I'm going to stop a few stitches before, so we're going to pull that through. Alright, and take the needle off. So you can see there we've woven that in. It's still stretchy and almost invisible. Almost can't even tell it's there. So we're going to take our scissors. We're just going to snip it right there close. But because it's on the inside, it doesn't have to be super close. So you can just leave a little tail there. And ta-da! End woven in. Can't even tell where it was. Good to go. So that's essentially how you're going to weave in the ends on everything. But let's go to a sleeve, because this is twisted rib. And really it's not going to be any different when it comes to weaving in, but there is an extra step we're going to do here because the collar was a cast on. This is a bind off. So we want to close this gap here. So you see this is where the yarn is, but this is our first bound off stitch. So what we're going to do is we're going to thread our needle. Maybe. Alright, threaded. Leave as much tail as you feel you need. Okay, so, again, a little hard to see. There is... So this is the first... This is the stitch where I started the bind off. This is the row, this twisted row here. There's a stitch that leads up to the bind off, which is here. I can even pull it up a little. It's here. So there's this stitch coming right out of the V stitches, out of this twisted rib. That's the first stitch leading up, but then this stitch right here, right above it, it's really kind of hard to see. So you're looking for the first V like this. In your bind off row. So for me that's here. You're going to take your yarn needle and you're going to pick up both legs of that V and pull your yarn through until it closes that gap. And then do you see here, this is the yarn. When I tug, there's a spot where the yarn is coming out right there. We are going to, you don't even have to pull tight just yet, we're going to insert our needle and pull the yarn back through that loop that we came out of. Okay, and pull tight. And what we've done there is create another V. So now you might notice that there's a little bit of a hole right there. That's okay. That's going to get fixed when we weave in. So now we're also on the back side of the work, which is exactly where we need to be, because now we're going to flip the cuff. So what you notice about twisted rib is that on this side, I've got twisted knit stitches and purls, but on this side, the purls create normal knit stitches, which is actually a really good thing, because we're going to do the exact same thing we did on the collar. I'm going to take our yarn, and I want to, before I do that, I'm going to, so this is kind of where that hole is. I'm going to come from the left side and go under that purl bump from like left to right. Maybe. Might have to come at it from this way. So from left to right, I'm going to pick that up, and I'm going to go to the purl bump on the other side of that hole. Oops, I've got my yarn in the wrong spot. Okay, so now I've got this loop, and I'm going to pull that so it closes that gap. So we shouldn't have, yeah, we don't have that hole there anymore. So now we're back to the knit stitches here, the knit row, and we're going to do the same thing. I'm going to insert and pick up every leg of those V-stitches. Now, if you don't want to just kind of keep weaving your needle through this, you can pull through those stitches one at a time. That is something that you can do, but you don't have to. Okay, so I've gotten a pretty good distance up the cuff. I'm going to pull that through. Now, for the cuff, make sure you pull a little. You know, we want stretch. We don't want it to bunch up. Like if I pull too tight, it pulls the edge up. We don't want that. So you can, you know, stretch it out a little. Make sure that you're leaving some room, because again, we want this to be stretchy and to fit over our wrists. So we've got that worked back out. I'm going to come to the other side. I'm going to do the same thing, picking up those right hand loops. There's a really great tutorial by Stacy of Very Pink Knits where she does this as well, where she shows you how to weave in on ribbing. If you look up weave in ends in ribbing on YouTube, you'll find other great videos. Of course, the nature of the beast here is that I have dark cuffs just because of the way the yarn worked up. So if you need something lighter or a little bit closer up or a little bit slower, I recommend the tutorial by Stacy of Very Pink Knits. It's very clear and concise and will give you everything you need. So now I've picked up all the ones I want to pick up. Pull my yarn through. Don't pull too tight. We want to leave it stretchy and loose. And actually, I don't want my end that low. You know what? It's fine. It'll be fine. So I'll take that off. We'll just snip it real close. All right. Nice and stretchy. Flip it over. Can't even tell. My dryer just went off. You probably heard that. All right, so that's one of our sleeves done. Sleeve cuffs done. So now what you should do is weave in your ends on the bottom of your sweater, which is here for me, and then your other sleeve. Oh, I have ends popping out. We're going to show you how to weave all of those in too. So go ahead, finish weaving in your ends on your sleeves, and then we will go to closing the gaps under the sleeves, and we will look at weaving in all of the ends where you may have tied in another ball of yarn. Alright, all of my ends are woven in on all of my cuffs and everything else. It looks really nice, really excited about this. So the last things we need to do are we've got to close up these holes under the sleeves. I've got a big one here, and I've got a big one over here. It actually looks like this side is pretty decent. I don't know what happened there. Anyway, we're going to reinforce those. So the first thing we got to do is we got to turn our sweater inside out. So, got to get in there and pull that all through. Okay, so interesting part about this is, of course, we've got ends hanging out what seems to be everywhere, including places where we tied in new balls of yarn. I don't remember what happened here. Okay, so let's take a look kind of at what's going on with the sleeves here. This is the inside of one. So this is where we tied in the yarn to begin knitting the sleeve. So this is where I said you might need more yarn, because we can use this for one side, but we might not be able to use it for the other side because it might not make it all the way across, because we do have to weave in the end as well. So here's what we need to do. We need to close up this hole but not pull that too tight. If you pull on that piece of yarn hoping it's going to tighten up the stitches, all you're going to do is tighten up this area here and not the actual hole. So don't do that like I just did. Okay, so we need to thread our needle. Hopefully you've left a long enough tail for this. If not, go ahead and cut yourself a piece of new yarn, and I can show you how we're going to do that on the other side. So we've got a hole, and we need to close it up from all sides so that it doesn't look partial anywhere. I still pulled that too tight. Come on, there we go. So the yarn's coming from the top of the hole. We're going to take it across to the bottom, and we're going to pick up some of the purl bumps, but not all of them, just some of them. And we're going to go back across to where the yarn is coming out, and we'll pick up some other purl bumps. So we've got one there, and we'll pick up one here. We're going to pull that and close the hole that direction. Then we're going to come to the left side, and we need to find out, let me adjust here. So we need some purl bumps on this side too. We're going to go across to here. So we're going to pick up here and here, go across the hole, and we'll pick up here and here. So essentially what you're doing is you're picking up purl bumps and pulling them to close this gap. A lot of the stitches around this area are going to be loose, which is very normal. If it helps to see, you can insert your hand into the top of the collar so you can kind of see a little bit better about where the hole is and where else we need to close up. So I actually think I went one purl bump too far on that one. Yep, there we go. So that's pulled. Now we've got a little bit of a hole here. So I'm going to come across to here. And we're going to just, so you're just going to kind of play with it, find where the gaps are, and try to close them by weaving the yarn in behind all of the purl bumps and finding a way to kind of just get everything pulled together so that there are no more gaps. Alright. Looks like I'm pretty satisfied with that. I'm pretty satisfied with, yeah. So now I'm just going to kind of go under it again, get my yarn through there. We're trying to find a way to kind of just get the yarn secured. So I kind of like try to push it through the knot a little bit. Then what I do is one last time I'll put the needle through the knot, pull through, leave a bit of a loop, and I will wrap the needle through the loop maybe. Okay, that's once through the loop. I'm going to do it a second time through the loop. This creates a bit of a tighter knot. I'm just going to pull and push that knot down there and pull tight. So now we've got a nice secure knot under here. Then what I want to do for securing this end is I actually want to weave it in under the sleeve. So I'm actually just going to, like I'm sewing a seam, I'm just going to pull, just going to weave it through, around and around. I'm going to lose the yarn out of the needle on accident. And back on. Okay. So it's like I'm sewing up a seam. I'm just around and around this edge that's under here. And again, this is under the arm. Nobody's going to see this. Then if you want to, just to be even more secure, you can turn it around. Give me the yarn. I seem to have woven both ends in down here. My bad. And then if you want, you can just go back. That way you've got multi-directional woven ends. And get your yarn stuck again. Weaving in ends is not my forte. Okay. And there we go. So now we just snip that. Alright. Now, real quick, let's just kind of take a look at what that looks like from the other side. So, I guess I don't have to completely undo it. Here's where that hole was. It's not perfect. Mine definitely is not perfect, but I also had a bit of a loose gauge. So if you feel that it's necessary, you can go in and try to tidy that up a little bit more if needed. I'm not too worried about it. Nobody's really going to see it. It's under my arm. But alright. Now, we're going to take care of this hole. So push this back. And that's here on the front side. Okay, so now the issue we're running into is that we don't have a end to use that's already attached to the work. So we're going to cut another piece of yarn when I find my end, and I'm going to give it like a good 2 feet, you know, just to have plenty to work with. Okay, thread the yarn. We've got plenty of yarn here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to insert the yarn here below the hole. Let me see if I can get my hand in the other side here so we can see what we're doing. Okay. This is the seam where the sleeve is connected to the body, and these are your raglan increases here. So I'm going to insert the yarn. So let's see, we got gaps here. So I'm going to insert the yarn somewhere in here. I'm just going to pull through a bit of a ways to about there and take my needle off. And I want a shorter end because essentially what we're going to do is I'm going to anchor this. You don't necessarily have to, but I'm going to do this just for my sanity. So I'm just going to tie a knot, and that merely anchors the yarn in place so that we have something to work with, and when we're trying to close this gap we have an anchor point. I'm going to rethread my needle. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing now. So we've got this anchor point. I'm going to go, let's see, I want to go across the anchor point, so we're going to go over here and grab 2, or here is maybe another solution if you don't like the way that first one looked. Go around places that you know that the yarn is secure and pick up purl bumps all the way around that hole, just like this. Turn turn this a little bit. Pick up purl bumps in a circle all the way around the hole. Lost my yarn and my anchor point. Okay, or not my anchor point, my spot here. Right, so I'm going to pull through there a little bit so we can still see that the hole is right there. So I've got, a little bit more I need to work around. And work your way back to the anchor point and pull your yarn through. So now we have yarn pulled all the way around this hole, so we're just going to cinch it. Just like that. We pull tight, and now we have a cinched hole. So now what you can do, if you left enough tail, is make sure that you've pulled that cinch tight, and tie it to your anchor point. And if you want to tie it more than once, be my guest. In fact, if you want to wrap that yarn through there twice to create a stronger knot, you can do that as well. And down it goes, just like that. So before I weave in the end on this one, let's kind of take a look and see what that looks like on the other side. Now for me, where my yarn was really loose in that spot, kind of pushing, it's definitely a cinched hole. It's definitely what that is. Again, you don't have to do it that way. If you do decide to do it that way, and you've got yarn sticking out, might I suggest, let's see. Okay, let's see if I can fix that. Again, don't have to do things the way I'm doing them. I'm just showing you the way that I have learned to do these things. But not every technique works, because just like we've seen here, if your hole has really loose yarn and you cinch it like that, you might end up with some stuff on the other side. So what I'm going to do, though, is I'm going to insert my needle through the hole there. I'm going to... I should have threaded it first. Thread it. I'm going to push the needle through that hole where I cinched it closed out to the front of the work. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to pick up those loose stitches that are popping out. I'm going to insert my needle back down through the hole, and pull. Let's see if I can get that. So I'm trying to pull that loose yarn through, and it looks like that did the trick. So pull that loose yarn through to the back, and again, I'm going to tie yet another knot just to make sure that we are good and secure. Just like that. Okay, so you can do the same thing with this end. Actually, you don't even need that much anymore. If you pulled as much as I did, you'll actually have enough for the second sleeve. So then snip your yarn, and you can weave in this end as well. And if both ends are long enough, you might be able to combine them and weave them in together. I'm not so worried about this end. I'm actually going to lay it down over the seam that I'm going to weave this end over. I'm going to sew over it. Kind of like when you work over your ends in crochet, if any of you are crocheters. You just lay one end down and you work over it. That's what I'm going to do with that piece. I've done that. I'm going to turn my work and go back the other way. And I'm going to get my needle through, pull. Let's see. One of those ends is stuck and shouldn't be. Well, you know what? I guess it's forever stuck. Snip the yarn. And ta-da! We are done with that underarm. Oh, there went and worked itself out again. That's okay. Alright, and there we go. So we have closed the holes on one sleeve. So let's take a look. Flip our sweaters back inside in. There's really not an opposite to inside out. I guess it's just inside in. Okay. And here we go. There's one. That's the first one we did. And here's two, the second one. And where you may have sewn your end in, it may show, but again, it's under your arm. It's not going to show to anyone but you. Alright, so now go and weave in the hole on the other side, or both holes. You'll have two. Weave those in, cinch them up, or get them closed, and then we will move on to weaving in any extra ends that you have from where you may have tied in extra balls of yarn. Okay, our sleeve holes are closed in one way or another, or in your favorite weave-in method. So now you've probably tied in one or two balls of yarn, or maybe some scraps. Like me, I kind of use some scraps towards the end, so I've got some ends that need to be woven in. This is probably the simplest part of weaving in ends. Hopefully, you might actually have a better technique than me, but mine are just tied together. I'm just going to thread my yarn, and I'm going to find purl bumps, and in a zigzag fashion, I'm going to go across rows, just pick up some purl bumps, pull that through. Don't pull tight, just let them hang in there. And then I'm going to go in a different zigzag direction and pick up some more purl bumps. And then if you feel that you need to do a third one, you can go this way, you can go back this way if you want. Just picking up some purl bumps in a zigzag fashion. Not pulling tight, just letting it sit in there. Alright. It's in there a couple different ways. You know, stretch it, make sure nothing's pulled too tight. And snip. And you can do the same with this. I've noticed that with this one, I actually don't have a lot to work with, so I'm going to get, this is my little notions pouch. I have these, which have longer loops on them. These are the Knitter's Pride wool needles. I highly recommend these, especially for what I'm about to do here, which is I don't really have a great, I don't have a lot of yarn there to work with. So I'm going to go pick up my purl bumps first, and then I will put my yarn in that hole, and since it's so big, it shouldn't be an issue, and I will just pull, and then straighten out, flatten out, and there we go. That is woven in, and that is just how you can do all of those loose ends that you have on your sweater. You can just do that, and if we take a look at the right side of the work, right here, you can see that that is pretty much invisible. No issues there. If it still looks like it might be a little tight, just kind of from the front side, pull, you know, stretch, kind of see if you can, you know, get it to where you want it to sit, and take a look. Everything seems to be holding, so we should be good to go. All right, so finish weaving in your ends, and then you are done. So stay tuned. We've got a few details on the knit along and when we can expect to all have our finished sweaters, and you will get to see mine on me for the first time. So thank you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I am proud to present to you my finished flax sweater. Here it is, all done, ends woven in. I am so excited, and I hope you are too. Try on your sweater, you're gonna love it. It's just such a beautiful pattern for every single person. Whatever modifications you had to make or whatever you needed to do. Hopefully, even if it doesn't fit perfectly, you now have created, for a lot of you, your very first sweater. So that's really exciting. And I hope that this has been an insight into sweater construction and how things work. And I hope you're going to enjoy it. So this is mine. It looks a little tight, but I guarantee it's not. The sleeves are a little tight, but I actually kind of like that. I like knowing that the sweater is hugging my body. It's lightweight. I did knit it in a DK, so it's a little bit lighter. It breathes so well. I love the colors. I love that the sleeves don't match. I think that's probably my favorite part of this. Guys, we're done. We are done. Or at least I am. So a lot of you have been, working very diligently on your sweaters. So let's get the update and kind of think about how we're going to wrap this all up. So from the date of the publishing of this video, today is Saturday, July 21st. You have 2 months from today. So actually, I will go ahead and extend that to the end of September. You have August and September to finish your flax sweaters. If you have only been watching, the tutorials but haven't been knitting and you've decided that you do want to knit this, you have 2 months. All of the videos are up. I believe I actually created a playlist so that you can just find every single one of those videos. It will go over everything, materials, yarn, the pattern, and of course from beginning to end. So you're going to get all of that information. So if you want to join in. I guarantee that you will not have a problem knitting this pattern, and if you do run into anything you don't understand, please let me know. Ask me a question in the comment section, send me an email. All of those things are available so that you can get in touch with me, and hopefully I can answer all of your questions. So for those of you who have finished your sweaters, please post the photo in the finished knit along thread on the Budget Knitter Podcast Ravelry page. You're entered for prizes. The prizes are named at the top of the thread. And then as you finish, make sure that you're posting in there as well. The other thing is 1 adult sweater equals 1 entry. 1 child sweater equals 1 entry. 2 children's sweaters still equals only 1 entry. However, a 3rd children's sweater then gives you a 2nd entry. So if you were knitting any adult sizes, 1 sweater per entry. If you're knitting child's sweaters, 2 sweaters per entry, but you don't have to knit 2 to have an entry, but you do have to knit 3 to have a 2nd entry, okay? So all of that information is in there. I'm really excited. Some people have finished theirs already, and they're absolutely gorgeous. I cannot wait to see what you have come up with if you haven't posted anything. If you would like, you can post your progress in the chatter thread. We have a chatter thread as well. If you just want to show how far you've gotten, or maybe just show off your yarn, something like that, that thread is available to you as well. For the finished object thread, though, just hit the love button. Please no chatter in there because it'll mess with the comment count. Even though I think I'm probably just going to write down names and draw them instead for that. I found that the random number generator just isn't as exciting, so I think drawing names is going to be more fun. Anyway, thank you for joining in this knit along that we had here on this channel. I do plan to do another knit along when we are finally when we've finally completed this one. I think we're going to do socks. I've had a lot of people say that they want to knit socks and they're not really sure how to get started or the best way to do things, and so I think the next thing we're going to do is socks, and I'm really excited about that because there's so many different ways that you can do it, and I think it's going to be really exciting to do socks. So keep your eyes open for that. I haven't exactly decided when we're going to start that, but keep your eyes open and stay tuned to this channel. If you are not subscribed, go ahead and subscribe to this channel. I do a podcast, I do reviews, I do all kinds of other fun things on this channel. And hopefully you liked this knit along tutorial series type thing. If you did, give it a like. Whatever you do, share it with your friends. Maybe another knitting friend who wants to knit a sweater and hasn't before. Share that with those friends and get them interested. So hopefully you liked this style of knit along. If you didn't, sorry. But hopefully this really was kind of fun for everybody, gives everybody a chance to be on an even playing field. And yeah, I'm really excited to see what you guys finish. So I will see you guys again very soon. I will kind of just keep you updated and kind of remind you like, hey, how's it going? Just want to see some progress. So yeah, thank you. I'm really excited this is done, at least for me, and I can't wait. Again, I can't wait to see what you guys create. So I will see you again very soon here on the Budget Knitter Podcast channel. Bye.